Hello, here we are. We're just going to run over everything that we did in our workshop on Saturday, making your mask for Don't Forget Your Mask, part of the Stitch Up series of workshops. What you'll need is your instructions. Don't worry too much. Really, it's just the guideline here, but I'll run through everything with you again. Okay. You'll also need your fabric. Like I said, start off perhaps with your least favourite fabric and take it from there. So we've got your fabric that goes on the outside. So you must remember you're going to be working with that fabric on the outside. We've got our lovely lining fabric, which is going to go here. You have got the option of using the interfacing, and I'll run through that with a reminder. Also need your scissors, your ruler or tape measure, your needle and thread, a pencil, and on here we've got clothes pegs, little scissors and elastic, and my favourite little snippers here, which I find are really useful for keeping it neat. I've also got my iron. I keep that on low and I keep that really handy. It's really useful for keeping your work looking nice. So the first thing we're going to do, I have pre-prepared 2 cutouts because I'm making a lot of masks. Some I'm making by hand and some I'm making with my sewing machine. So why don't you cut 2 pieces of card or paper, which are the sizes that are on your pattern. I think what confused me a bit was the pattern looked complicated, but it's not. So you can cut yourself 2 pieces of card. For the inside piece, 17 centimetres by 20 centimetres. This includes all your seam area. And for the larger piece, 17 centimetres by 24 centimetres. So what will actually happen is with your fabric, the pattern side that way and your plain fabric here. So you have the 17 centimetres this way, 24 along there, and your 20 centimetre bit will go there. So that is your seam allowance for turning over. So I'm now just going to press the fabric and cut it to size. As they say on Blue Peter, here's one I prepared earlier. So the lining fabric, just give that a nice little press. I like to iron before I cut, just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And here we go. Now, you take your time. There's no competition with this. As I said, mask making is a relaxing activity. So what I'm doing here is, by trial and error, I've got a straight edge, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And I'm just going to make a little mark there with my pencil. And I'm going to cut that, line that up here. You can use chalk. And I'm going to cut my fabric there we go, my first piece. Where you've got a straight edge on your fabric, take advantage of that. That will be turned over anyway. And then I just happen to have my smaller piece of fabric, which is exactly the right size. But I'm going to cut it again for you, just to show you. Moving that out of the way. So this isn't as neat, this edge. So I'm going to cut this along here. The dog has just entered the room, so apologies for this. Change in acoustics. We're going to cut along here. And just always cut your fabric with the smallest bit on your right hand side. If you're left-handed, on your left hand side. it means that you can hold the fabric as you're cutting, which keeps it all nice and straight for you. Oops. And then I'm going to cut this bit here. You can use a cutting wheel, but I think not everybody has a cutting wheel. I don't. I keep all my scraps of fabric because they're always useful for other projects. I'm going to give that a little press. I'm going to press this piece of fabric again. And then lay them down like this. So you've got your outer fabric there with your lining here. And you should roughly have about 2 centimetres either side, but the more you make your masks, the more you can probably adjust them to suit the size that you want. So we've cut our fabric, and the next thing we're going to do is turn over our seam. So I'm going to get all my pieces together for doing that. I do have a special little heat-proof ruler, which I sometimes use, but I'm just going to show you without today. What we're going to do is turn over our top here. And like I said, you can do a double turn, but that will make your mask a little bit small. So turn the fabric with the short side towards you and just turn over. This would be the equivalent of your fingernail there. I don't know whether you can see that if you don't want to measure it. And you're going to take your iron and you're going to press that and get a nice crease. Okay. And then what I like to do, I find the pins get in the way a little bit. I just hold that with the clothes pegs, turn it round, and you're going to do your other side. Now I'm lucky here. I've got a ready-made seam, which I think is quite nice. I think it's nice when you sometimes get the detail of where something is made, where the fabric's from. As you probably realise, my fabrics are from everywhere and nowhere. Okay, so that is our second seam. So I'm going to leave you to do that. You cut that. While you're doing that, I'm going to get my needle threaded up, and we're going to stitch all the way along here and all the way along here. And if you remember from Saturday, the stitches we used were a running stitch, which is where you put the needle in and run it along the fabric, or a hem stitch, and I'm going to show you both of those again in a moment. So I'll leave you to get your fabric cut, get your needles threaded. You can pin this if you want, and I'll be with you in a moment.